Hey Stella, thanks for coming onto the Social Dream Machine. This is a show dedicated to creators making their first dollar online and just success that they've had along the way. So for those that don't know you, would you just mind introducing yourself?
My name is Stella. I'm currently 19 years old and I run a marketing agency. And we do a couple of things. First thing is we help people create short form content online. And then we also help people build something called an email course funnel to take all their traffic and turn that into more clients and revenue for their business. So yeah, that's pretty much a rundown about me. So I'm a agency owner, business owner, full time, and yeah.
Before we started chatting, you'd mentioned that you had scaled a business to six figures in high school. So how did that happen? I mean, how are you already so into business at such a young age?
The biggest thing for me is the belief breaking aspect. So I would say at the last year of my high school kind of experience, I think a lot of people will be familiar of this kind of boom on YouTube. I think specifically YouTube of a lot of these kind of online business gurus, people like Eman Gudji. I'm trying to think like other people that come to mind that create this content and break your beliefs of what is possible, right? Regardless of whether you agree with what they're creating and selling, etc. Like these people, the content they were posting was like, hey, you can do this, it's possible, right? And so that was the biggest thing for me. Like in high school, I was like, hold on a second, like these people that I'm watching are literally no different than me right now. Like there's literally no difference. And I know that I could take the actions that they took to get to where they are. And so it's like, well, what's stopping me? There's absolutely nothing stopping me. And so that was really the biggest thing, is like breaking that belief that like it is possible and like look at all these people doing these things. Because if I didn't have social media or if I wasn't consuming that stuff while I was in high school, I don't think I would be where I am, because I wouldn't be exposed to all these people that have shown me what's possible. And so it's that belief breaking aspect of it that I think is the most powerful and kind of got me into it. And then I bought a course. I did buy Eman Gudji's like Grow Your Agency course like 2 or 3 years ago. And that really introduced me to the whole world of the agency space. I started doing a lot of freelance editing, and I was like, the start of 2022, I was like, I want to make money online. Like kind of one of those moments where you're like, how can I get out of the matrix and not work a normal job and not go down that path, right? That was my mindset. Like in high school, I was like, I don't want to do that. And so I was like, okay, how can I make money online? It was 2022 and I started freelance video editing, and I would reach out to people on Instagram, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know I was doing cold outreach or warm outreach. Like I didn't know that was a thing. I was literally just messaging people saying, hey, I can edit your videos. Or probably really crappy messages. And I actually got 2 people responding. I remember my first 2 clients. One of them was a like online coach and business owner, and we created some videos for a little bit, and I actually ended up meeting him in Miami like a year ago. So that was really cool. And then, so he was one of my first clients as a video editor. And then after that, I also outreached to this random guy, and I became part of this video editing team, editing short form content. And then so I was like, hold on a second, like I can just do this on my own, right? I could do this for clients and, hire a video editing team, etc. And so it kind of morphed into like me freelance video editing, really into social media. I grew my TikTok from 0 to 10K, just like posting self-improvement content. And that was really that was kind of my intro, like, wow, social media growth. And I also as well, I think I slightly missed the short form content boom. I would say like if it's like, how like short form content got really big, like when Alex Hormozi blew up and everyone was starting short form content agencies, there was this slow like that. I think I was like right here. I wasn't quite like here. It wasn't quite at the start, but I was like right here when everyone was starting their short form content agencies.
Going back to like the first like sale that you had when you had no idea what you're doing and just sort of doing cold outreach, that didn't even realize you're doing cold outreach. Like, how did you know what to charge then? And like, how has your thought process for charging since then like transformed, I guess? Because I'm sure it's way different now than it was then.
My first sale that I really always think back on. I think I even have a video on my phone of like my reaction. It was like a sales call. It was in the morning because New Zealand time zone, like in the morning, that's like US afternoon. So I was like pitching to like US people in US. And I remember this is when I started my agency. So this wasn't like, I did freelance stuff and then I started my agency, although I was more like a glorified freelancer because I was still like in the weeds. And I remember I was on the sales call and I had absolutely no script, no idea what I was doing. I didn't like, it was really nerve wracking. Like, it was one of those things where like I was going in blind. I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous. I wanted to make the sale, like one of those things. But it's kind of like you have to remind yourself that you just have to like dive into the deep end, get on your first call and just screw it up and then look back and go, okay, I need to fix these things. But anyway, to really elaborate on the first sale, I think it was a 1,500 USD. So that's also
pretty damn good.
Yeah, that was also huge for me because US to New Zealand currency is times like I think it's if you times that number by like if you add if you times it by 1.6 like 1,500, that's how much New Zealand dollars it was. So it was quite a big deal for me because I was like, holy crap, that's insane. Like some of my friends would be working anywhere from 25 to 40 hours and they would get 1,000 New Zealand dollars a month for that. And I just made the sale and made more than that and working less. Like, it was just this huge unlock of like, just everything. Like when you make your first sale, it really, really unlocks this big belief of like, wow, I could do this 10 more times. And if I got 10 more times, I could do this 10 more times, then whoa, like that's crazy. And I think it's again, like it comes back to the theme of just like breaking your belief of like what you think is possible.
That's so fair. Like, how do you, going back to that then, like what's possible? Like, how did you even know to charge that much since it was so much bigger than everything that you'd been around with your friends and everything? So like you kind of already started off with a bit of a mindset. I feel like that was a little bit ahead of the pack. It didn't seem like you had to go from like making a little bit of money to like starving artists to like making more money. You sort of just went big right away. So was that part of like, I don't know, how did you get that mindset, I guess?
I think from a lot of the material that I had consumed in terms of like the agency world, I think that is a real hack because you can learn that they tell you, hey, like you should probably price it around this amount. And I think those types of mentorships and things like that, regardless of whatever it is, I think are super powerful because you just learn from their mistakes rather than having to go from starving artist to, slowly making your way there. I wouldn't say it was like direct path there. I definitely had a lot of beliefs about this is way too much. Like, I wasn't making a lot before with the freelance video editing. And there was definitely like, it wasn't just like a click of a finger, you know what I mean? That it got there. But I think in terms of getting to that price point, it was more like, okay, for me, it was more like, okay, what do I kind of see everyone else charging? What's kind of reasonable to the point where they would say yes? Like, I don't know. Honestly, I didn't really have any sort of science to it. I feel like it was just more like this course was telling me probably around this much, like you could charge people. This is kind of what I was making with the freelance video editing. And then it was kind of just like, let me just throw something at the wall. It wasn't really, there's not really a science to it, really. I feel like that's what happens when you're first in business. You kind of just pitch something and then you just see what happens. But on that note, I will say, I believe I charged like 1,500, but it was for like 80 videos. Like it was crazy. Like it wasn't
80.
It was like 80. It was like 60 to 80 videos. It was way too many. I was not charging enough. Like there was a lot of things I learned from that, and it's pretty crazy to look back on. Like at some point I was working with actually a friend of mine at only $1,000 and I was doing so much work. And so it's kind of one of those things where you just pitch something, you do the work and you learn, wow, okay, this is way too much work. I charge way under this, and you get that really shitty feeling. And then next time when you pitch someone, you don't get afraid of charging that much because you know how much work's going to go into it.
The way I try to look at things is like value. Like, is there a transformation going on here? Like, are you going, like for me, for example, like I teach people how to like podcast or whatever. So like for me, it's like either you're not a podcaster and then you're a podcaster, or like say like you're an author, like you're a published author or you're not, right? So I feel like if things have transformations built into like the journey, they're easier to sell at a higher ticket item. It's like one thing that I've realized. That do you feel that way too, or how do you look at it too? Because it's probably much different. Like agency work, I would assume people probably it's probably very competitive, right? As far as like the rates go. So how do you look at like that? Like as far as like the elasticity of the pricing, if you will.
The biggest lesson that I learned as a freelancer is instead of charging for hours and for amounts of work, charge for outcomes. Because the real value of that is that as a, the person that's doing the work, as the freelancer, again, I wasn't really a freelancer, but you could also like apply this to the agency world as well. But the biggest lesson I learned as an agency owner, as a freelancer, as a business owner, is charge for those outcomes, because when you do that, if your outcome that you're generating someone, so say for example, let's just say for the email course funnels that we're building for people, right? We build this funnel, let's say it doesn't take us this long, just to premise, but let's say it took us 1 day to build. It definitely doesn't, but let's just say it took us 1 day to build and implement, and that could make someone, let's say, $50,000 to their business, add to their business, MRR, right? But they don't need to know. What if I charge per hour for that day? That would only cost them $200, right? Maybe something like that. But because I'm charging for the outcome, I can go, okay, that's, they're going to get them $50,000. Then let me charge 2K, let me charge 10K, let me charge 15K for this build, because it's going to get them this outcome. And it's the outcomes thinking. What are they going to get? And it's almost like, yes, it doesn't take you, I'm not explaining this very well, but like if it takes you a few hours, you're not charging per hour, you're charging for the outcome. I think that's, I'm not explaining it very well, but that was really that's my mindset now when I price things, rather than for deliverables, etc. I'm thinking, what outcome is this going to get someone? And typically my framework is like, what is 10% of so if someone makes, what I'm doing for them is going to make them $100,000, then how can I charge 10% of that so that they go, wow, that's a no-brainer? So like 10K, right? I'd charge them 10K because it's going to make them $100,000, even if the work doesn't take me, hours and hours and hours. I think it's that kind of unlock of thinking.
How do you, I guess, know what the outcome it's going to give these people? Is that part of the discovery call? Like when you're kind of finding out like how this piece of like content or this thing that you're building for them the course essentially is going to be valuable? How do you discover that part?
Typically in my mind, I have like a base fee of like what we really need to be at in order for it to make sense, just based on the work, etc. Typically it's mostly the same, but for some people, if I'm like, damn, you have so much traffic and there's just so much potential here, then I might charge either a percentage of the sales that they make through it, to make it more of a no-brainer, less risky for them, or I might charge a little bit more. In terms of how I get to that number, every part of the email course funnel has a certain conversion percentage KPI that we're looking at, right? So which means that, just to give you an example, if they have X size audience. So if they have, 1 million followers, let's say something like that, obviously it's not super accurate, but we can make rough calculations of how many of that million people are going to click across to a landing page. Again, it's sometimes hard to say. So we have to maybe look at what existing, email subs they might be getting, or existing people they're getting over to their website. So we can kind of gauge how many people might go to a landing page that we build. And then from there, we're like, okay, million followers, how many people are going to go to the website? Out of those people, at least 40 to 50% will convert into an opt-in. And out of everyone who opts in, we know that at least 1 to 3% of those people are either going to buy or book a call. And so using that framework, we can go, oh, wow, this is roughly, approximately, and conservatively going to make you X amount of revenue.
I noticed that you talk about lead magnets a lot, and they're very important for bringing people into your newsletters, which is just a way of occupying trust in people's brains and getting more in their heads and probably selling them more things, essentially, is the way I kind of look at it. So like, I noticed that you had like a free newsletter or like a free course, I think, on your LinkedIn page. How do you what's like some good link magnets, and like what have you experimented with as far as like what works, what doesn't work? I'm a little bit newer to, I guess I've done like a checklist for like your podcasting gear and things like that, video, audio stuff or whatever, but I need to probably spend time and do more of them. Courses seem pretty cool. So what is your thoughts on those?
Things like downloadable lead magnets, things like checklists, PDFs, ebooks, not saying they don't work, but they're not the most effective. And there's a couple of reasons why. Firstly, when someone opts into a downloadable resource, a lot of people will download that, maybe skim it, maybe go through it. You might get the odd people that'll really be into it and consume the whole thing. But majority of people are busy and they are most likely going to, say they'll look at it later and then never actually go and consume the rest of it. I mean, for me, I have so many bookmarked lead magnets just in my browser right here that I'm like, oh, this is super valuable to me. Like, super valuable. It's not that the lead magnet is not valuable. It's just that I've totally forgotten that I've downloaded it, and it's just the last thing that I'm thinking about. And that's the risk that you run when you have a checklist or a lead magnet. Now, what's the solution? The most valuable thing that you can do for your lead magnet is, if you have a checklist or an ebook, and you know that it's super valuable, instead break that checklist or that lead magnet down into a series of emails. It could be anywhere from 3 to 7, maybe more, and break that. Let's say you had an ebook and it had, five lessons, right? Insert your niche, like 5 lessons in some facet. Break those 5 lessons down into 5 emails, and instead of just sending them all at once, send those 5 lessons over a series of 5 emails to the person's email inbox. This does a few things really, really well. Trains people to open your emails and they know that you're going to provide them a ton of value. Reminds people that you opted in and downloaded this because you're meeting them where they are in their inbox, already checking client messages, team member messages, etc. And you're breaking it down into a more digestible way so that it only takes them 3 to 5 minutes to quickly skim and consume your value. And so it's just building that trust, staying top of mind over time. And one of those, there's an idea in psychology, which is over time, I don't know what the exact name is, but I think it's familiarity bias or something like that, where people are more likely to know, like, and trust you if you're just constantly top of mind, constantly there on their feed, constantly showing up. Like, for example, there's this guy on Instagram and his content's okay. Like, sometimes it's valuable, but he's just always on my feed. And I actually bought something from him because he's just constantly... Yeah, because I constantly see him, and my psychology is going, oh, I kind of like this guy because he's familiar.
Is that a daily, like one day, like Monday through Friday type of thing? Like, or is it spread out over time? Because I guess my only thought is, am I going to be annoying someone if I'm in their inbox? But a lot of these creators call it like an indoctrination email set, where like it's like the first 5 days or whatever, and they just like blast them the first 5 days or whatever. Is that like... I guess my only concern would be like people will get annoyed that they're seeing so many emails from me, but have you found that to be the case, or that people just don't really care?
If you put a resource in front of someone that goes, I can solve your biggest pain point that you're going through right now and help you unlock your biggest dream outcome. And you put that in front of them and you go, I'm going to send you 5 emails about this. It's all about expectations, right? They're not going to get annoyed. If I was going through a really painful problem, right? For example, let's say I couldn't get views on my LinkedIn content and someone put a resource saying this thing is going to get you views on your LinkedIn content. Send me those damn emails over those 5 days. I want to see those emails. It's all about the expectations you set on the landing page. If someone knows they're getting 5 emails, they're not going to be annoyed, right? That's the other thing. And also, if you're solving a painful problem and you're actually providing value, I don't really care if someone's bothering my inbox. If they're giving me value, then I'm totally fine with it, right? In terms of the length, it's just one day after another. So for example, they get the first email, waits 24 hours, they get the next one. So it's kind of one day after each other. What we've been doing, which is really awesome, just kind of like advanced strategies, is that you can add something in your email that says, hey, click this link in this email. Like, if you want to fast track your success, if you want to solve your problem faster, then click this button. We'll send you the next day's email right away. And this allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to see the warm versus the cold leads that are signing up. and you can retarget those people that are constantly clicking on that link, and you can lead score them. So give them a point every time they click on that. And then if they have, if there's 5 emails and each of the 5 emails, you give them an opportunity to do that. And if someone has a lead score of 5 and you give them a point every time they're clicking that, I can set up an extra email that goes, if this person has a lead score of 3+, send them this extra email that says, work with me, kind of thing. Like, gives them a pitch.
Yeah, that makes total sense. What are you using for your email tool? Using Beehive or ConvertKit or something like that?
Currently use ConvertKit. When we work with clients, we typically just integrate with whatever the email marketing platform they have, because there's nothing worse than like having all these different softwares, and it's so much easier if someone can come in and just build with what they have, because they also have a lot of data typically already inside that. If they don't, then we just say, hey, ConvertKit, we'll sign you up on ConvertKit. But we've worked in Beehive, Go High Level, HubSpot, ConvertKit. I mean, all the email platforms, they work typically the same way. They have their sign up forms, they have their flows, like, you know what I mean? So
how do you view content like on LinkedIn as far as like content strategy for getting leads specifically? Because it seems like some content, like you might want to be like, hey, I want to talk about like a trend like AI and ChatGPT, which is good for like reach, right? But it's not good for like specifically to what you're doing. So is a certain amount of your content like an offer or like a pitch or like just like a case study? Or how do you look at content that actually brings in leads? Because there's a lot of people that might have 20,000 followers, but they're getting zero content because their content is like not driven for like leads for whatever reason.
I always say to all of our clients that we build these email funnels for, that you need to be posting content that directly aligns with this email course. So what I mean by that is, really crazy example. Let's say we built a email course, and what I mean by that is like a lead magnet that teaches someone how to clean your dog properly. But you're posting content that you post a post on LinkedIn or whatever social platform, and you say, here's how to clean your cat. And you're trying to send people over to your landing page on how to clean your dog. The people that you're attracting, they're not going to care about that landing page, that resource about how to clean your dog, because they're there to clean the cat. So it sounds a really crazy example, but a lot of people do this where, like you said, they try and get a lot of reach by posting stuff about AI, ChatGPT, trending things. But unfortunately, a lot of those people aren't interested in their services and their, what they're offering. And let me tell you, this is a little bit of a controversial thing, because people think like, wow, if I reach more people, then, I'm going to, like, even though maybe my target audience will be, maybe a small percentage of that, there's still going to be more of them, right, in that kind of pool of broad people. But it's really interesting. Alex Hormozi recently created a whole presentation about this, and he said over like 35 months of posting a ton of content across social media, spending over, I think, $4 million. He experimented with posting relationship TikToks, food TikToks, not TikToks, but like social media content, like broader topics. And really analyzing the data, he realized that the most email subs, the most applications he got for investment companies came from when he posted more business content rather than the relationships and the food content and the gym content. And the reason why is because the people that go to the gym content want more gym content. The people that want see the relationship content want more relationship content. And that was really interesting, because it's been a journey for me, because I used to have that belief and framework for clients creating content, etc., that, hey, we should create more broad topics that resonate with more people. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to reach everyone, you kind of reach no one. And it's more about resonance rather than reach. Resonance content attracts and builds trust with clients. Because yes, I'd rather have, 10 people who are my ideal clients who looked and read my post and went, holy crap, that really resonated. That really was like, wow, that really hit home. That's super valuable. I'm going to go out and, apply what you said in that post, rather than 100,000 people and maybe one or two or not a lot of people really deeply resonated with that post. Maybe my 10 ideal clients saw that post that got 100,000 views, but it didn't really resonate as deeply, right, than the other post. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. I could go on a massive rant about this because I'm really passionate about content and social.
What makes a post resonate for you specifically, or like how do you look at it for like when you're writing? Like how do you make sure that you are like hitting that, like, I guess, button every time?
It all comes down to how well you know your target audience and your ICP. Every single time I create content, I'm always thinking about, if I was my ICP, which is a business owner, a service provider who's posting content on social, who has a large audience, that's my ICP. Or if, it has traffic and they're creating organic traffic through social. If they read this post I just wrote, would that capture their attention, trigger some sort of emotion, or provide value to them? And value is a really vague word, so I like to really break it down as value is when you're solving people's problems. So is this post going to solve this person's problem? And so that's kind of the framework in mind. And I also like to sprinkle in some storytelling posts and some more personal stuff in there, here and there, just to really build more of and show people my personality and kind of show more about myself, because I think that's also important. But I do like to keep it like 80-20, 80 like really like problem solving posts for my ICP. And I'm not really too worried about if it's getting a lot of reach. I'm worried if I'm reaching the right person. So I'm looking at who's commenting, who's liking the post. Are they my ideal target audience? And then I like to think, 20% story based personality. Like I'm looking to maybe get a little bit more reach and just kind of put myself out there and tell my story.
Stories are so important. I've realized too, like the first interview here was Dakota Robertson, and his story was like working as like a delivery driver for a bit. Then all of a sudden he had like a $250,000 launch like a couple of years later. So it was crazy, like the juxtaposition between like the two states or whatever. And I feel like the reason why he was so powerful is because he told like the crap too. Like he wasn't afraid to be like, hey, I was like this very low point level in my life or whatever. So I feel like storytelling is super important, but also being relatable is like, it kind of reminds me of like Michael Cera, right? Like, I don't know if that comedian guy, like he's a bit of a nerd, right? But like there's the relatability to the people that are kind of just not trying to like posture and act like they like know everything for whatever reason. I don't know why that is.
I also think it's really important to realize that even if you are posting more like content that's resonating with your ICP, like solving their problems, that does not mean you cannot use storytelling in your content. Like a lot of people think that when they're creating and trying to attract their ideal customer, mostly like B2B kind of like agencies or businesses, that they really try and make it super professional. But
a robot.
Like a robot. It's like, I do not want to read this. Instead, I like to make it a little bit more fun. Like, I want to make it like maybe crack some jokes. Maybe like the tonality of my writing is more fun, more of my personality. Maybe I might crack a joke. And that, because the people I'm reaching at the end of the day are humans. Yes, they run businesses, but make your content fun. It doesn't have to be boring just because it's solving someone's problem. You can also, add your personality in there, tell a story, and use that to get people reading your content.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like just very boring, like kind of like business talk, kind of MBA content. I can't stand that. That's no fun. So where do we send people, Stella, if they want to reach out to learn more about your business and to find you on LinkedIn and kind of all the services that you offer? Is there anything that you wanted to promote?
Yeah, if you were interested or wanted to learn a little bit more about, what we do or how we could help, best place, you can just follow me on LinkedIn. It's just Stella Blomfield, so Blomfield. So just one O. A lot of people have two O's, Bloomfield. And yeah, you can just go over on LinkedIn, check me out. And also as well on my LinkedIn profile, you can check out my free 5-day email course. And that'll give you a rundown of learn a little bit more about what an email course funnel is. It'll also show you how to create your own one. So if you have a team in-house that, maybe you want to create it yourself, maybe you have some resources, or if you have any questions, then reach out. But yeah, main places are just LinkedIn, and then you can check out the 5-day email course there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you too.